high-performance team from advisory, technology, specially enterprise application, SAP and AMP Oracle, and operational expertise to serve CFOs, CSCOs, and CPOs in India looking to transform their back offices and mid offices. Please welcome Mr. Ramit Gupta, partner, FSCT Service Line Leader Consulting at IBM. Let's have a huge round of applause, everybody, for Mr. Ramit Gupta. Finance leaders balance need for innovation with need for control while adopting AI-led finance models. And I would request Mr. Ramit Gupta to kindly begin with the session.
And $3 billion, just to give you the context, for a company of our size, which is roughly around $62 billion or so in annual revenue, it's a lot of money to try and unlock for ourselves, which can be, funded back into a lot of growth opportunities for us, right? So that's really, what we do. And I thought I'll just talk about how we are looking at leveraging technology at scale, not only for ourselves, but a lot of what we harvest from our own internal learning. How do we work with a lot of our clients in India and around the world? Briefly about myself, I've been, I'm a partner with IBM Consulting. It's a very complex title. Essentially, I work on finance transformation for clients in India and South Asia, right? Clients of IBM in India. Fundamentally, this is an extremely important, while it's a very small nuance, but it's a significant change. All this while, we always talk about analytics and then AI, right? So AI is always something which you are planning to do as an add-on, right? Fundamentally, now we are talking about AI first. So this is significantly challenging. We start looking at everything to be driven by AI first. Why do I need, anything else if AI or automation can solve it for us, correct? So we need to plan for, and you can argue on the source of the data, et cetera, but fundamentally, I think all of us will align to the fact that by 2026 or so, the percentage of digital workers in our business, right, in our operations will be 50–60%, right? Now, we all have HR departments, right, to manage our human workers. I think there is a certain ability required within our company to manage our digital workers, right? It has its own life, correct? And everybody's talking about significant productivity throughputs, et cetera, right? So I'll not belabor that. I think we all know it, but let's see how do we operationalize that. I think fundamentally, whatever I've been noting, through the day, and all of us in the room, we are only looking at three things, right? Just to simplify things, right? What I call on the left side is standardizing or upgrading your core, right? We all talk about ERP systems, we all talk about CRM systems, and we are looking at the next generation, right? So companies which are on SAP ECC are migrating to S/4HANA, or you're looking at something which is cloud-enabled systems, right? That's given, right? Which brings in the leading practices around the world. While I completely understand that we can't be completely redefining our processes to suit a technology, but there are merits in leveraging leading practices, correct? The second thing on the right side is what I call is optimizing your operations, right? And I think I heard in the previous session, Raj, I think talking about, entire global operations which you're running or regional operations. There is an opportunity to try and bring everybody together and drive optimization, setting up shared service centers, creating center of excellences, et cetera, right? So that's the second thing which is beginning to happen. And the value kicker for any company comes by leveraging analytics, and I think we talked extensively about it a moment back, right? Everybody's talking about data insights, how real those data is, et cetera, right? So that's how the value is all being unlocked. But the point is, I think we are way beyond the realms of experimentation, right? I think we are now in a race to what I call as AI at scale, right? So there are clients which I serve, for example, where we have deployed 150 digital workers, right, for global operations of that company. So we are talking about rapid scale, and how quickly can we get there is the challenge on the table. A bit of theory, why this moment is important, right? Fundamentally, our belief in IBM is that the cost fulcrum is undergoing dramatic shift, right? Automation has been around for a while. RPAs have been there for decade. But the moment you put AI and automation together, assuming all the hygiene of change management, data clean, et cetera, is given, right? All that is basic hygiene. But if you have those basic hygiene, the cost fulcrum is dramatically shifting. So what you see on the left-hand side is fundamentally what would companies do? They'll say, I've got this problem. I've got maybe 10 people doing that work. Maybe I'll do an RPA, an automation. I'll save some effort, and I'll get some incremental cost out, which is what was happening on the left side of the bar, right? And as you grew volume and scale, and we are fortunately in part of the world which is still seeing growth, which we are debating about 7%, 6%, or 10% growth, but the growth is given, right? In such an environment, your costs are still growing, right? But with Gen AI, right, where there's an ability to summarize, have natural language processing, being able to do Q&A, and plug that with automation, right? So you ask something, you get an answer, you can trigger some workflow, get an automated response. Technically, you can do a lot of work which was not thought about earlier. So all your scale can be delivered by lesser cost of operations. Of course, there's a certain setup cost. You need minimum economies of scale to get on with it, but we are talking about a significant cost shift. Now, that's a eureka moment. It's all for us to understand and realize it, and that's where we are talking about that $3 billion worth of saving for IBM. Yeah. Let me belabor that a bit more, why this is important, right? So we all have been around, we have had chatbots, right? So a person goes, does a quick query, you get a response. That's very tactical, right? So assuming you have a chatbot which has the digitized policies, you can query it, it gives you an answer, correct? But the next step is analytical, right? Where you ask a question, it gives you, okay, maybe you can do ta-da-da, right? So you have some actions to take on. But what is fundamentally changing is what I've talked about is this interconnected and discretional work. Where, for example, and all of us in the company, we have been talking about finance for the whole day. Let me take a very different example, let's say in HR, right? So you want to apply for a leave, you just go to a digital assistant, it will query you that do you have that leaves available, or do you have the policy, are you compliant with the policy, can you take a certain leave? It logs in on your behalf into the requisite system, you apply those leaves and you come out of it, right? So in a way, you have a personal assistant which at your behest can go into various systems and subsystems and give you the right answer and do it for you. Phenomenal productivity lever, right? Now, likewise, if you want to do a transfer from one employee to another, all that can be completely done by that virtual assistant or a digital assistant now. Likewise, if you want to do something around internal control risk, you can query somebody, you can figure out through the summarization of technology Gen AI, yes, there's a potential risk here, it can go to a certain trigger, and that person reacts on it, you get an answer straight away, right? So there are various ways we can stitch this, which is unlocking value. Within finance, within IBM, these are some Gen AI-enabled use cases which we are now scaling up. for a lot of our clients. And I did hear a lot of these use cases through the day, but just to bring them to life. For example, I heard about need for creating a lot of reports. So we currently have delivered for a very large mining company, which has monthly business reviews, right? So you can simply plug in the data. The first CFO narrative report can be generated by GenAI, right? Of course, you need to edit it, you need to control it, you need to evolve it, but you save 80% of the work straight away, right? Likewise, you can have Ask Finance, right? You could talk about conversation with vendors. Vendors can query a finance person. What's the status of my invoices? Where is it stuck? Can I do, this action to be done? Trigger ticket, create a ticket, which can be automatically resolved or triggered to the right person. So essentially, you're making your organization 24/7, leveraging chatbot, leveraging GenAI, leveraging workflows, right? So it's a power of all these. When they come together, the value gets created, and you can keep expanding that to various other business stakeholders within the company. Likewise, finance intelligence advisor, and my intent is not to go into all the details here, but I'm sure you're getting the drift, right? We can talk about a lot of these examples. Likewise, policy and compliance advisor, it's humanly impossible to keep track of all your changing regulatory environment. Is it possible for you to simply do a quick query? Somebody can summarize it for you and you can give you an answer. Is this applicable to in my environment? You can argue the technology is not 100% accurate. I grant you that. But I'm sure all of you will agree that technology is becoming better each passing day, each passing month, right? So these are nowhere in the realms of future possibilities. We need to start acting on it, and that's what we are doing. Yeah. So all this is based on unstructured data. Mind you, till around 3-4 years back, the entire conversation on analytics was around structured data. How much of it I have it in my Excel sheets. Now it's all about being able to parse emails, policy documents, all unstructured data, right? That's where suddenly it's becoming a very different conversation. You can layer it with AI machine ML, you can leverage it with visual analytics, and a very good interactive, human plus digital interaction, which we have. How do we bring this to life? And that's something which all of us are talking about. So we need to get out of the mindset of experimentation. The moment you start looking at, okay, how do I do this at a scale? Then we start having complex problems to be solved, right? Absolutely, we need the data, right? Without that, nothing works. So data, we have been saying this, it's been beaten to death. Data is the new oil. So of course, I'm sure all of us have been working on data. In fact, interestingly, our CFO in IBM says that the chief data officer is reporting into him, because he's not a custodian of information. He's a custodian of data, right? That's how we look at it within our company. So you need the data. You can layer AI orchestration workflows on top of it, and then you can layer the experience layer, which is all this digital assistance, which can then interface with the rest of the organization at the below, right? And that's where you'll see Ask Finance, Ask HR, Ask Procurement. The same architecture with different facades will provide a lot of value to a lot of stakeholders in the industry. I know I'm going very fast, but wanted to give you those key messages. And then this suddenly throws up a lot of opportunities for us, right? You could create a control tower for finance. You can further drive automation, opportunities for improvement through process debottlenecking, look at internal control frameworks in terms of why do I need this? In fact, we are relooking at our control frameworks. Why? Because when you're moving from human to digital, you actually have an audit trail anyway. Why do I need a human to do make a checker, for example? If system is doing some activity, or there are two systems doing make a checker, technically you have the audit control, right? There are some critical enablers to doing that. Number one is about open hybrid multi-tech. And interesting, a lot of my clients who I talk to in finance, they know technology more than I do, I'll be very honest. And I'm amazed with the learning excitement which a lot of my colleagues have. But one thing one needs to recognize here is, we'll never have one model inside a company. You'll never have one cloud inside a company. You need to design your organization for multi-cloud, multi-model. What I mean by multi-model? You may have we talked about ChatGPT, you could have a Copilot from Microsoft, you could have Watson X from IBM. There are multiple models, right? You could choose to. You could train your models on various types of LLM modules, right? It will be that way. We are getting ready for an organization which is of that kind, which is open, multi-model, multi-cloud, and a hybrid environment. It has to be designed for humans. So we are not looking at technology replacing humans. We know for a fact that digitally augmented humans would be here to stay, right? So we need to enable the humans. We need to overcome the fear which a lot of our colleagues have, and some of us also have it. Let's be honest. We ourselves are fearful, right? We need to kind of get out of that mindset. One important part in all this, which sometimes get missed out, is the trustworthy AI. AI should never become a black box. You throw something in, it throws out something out, and you don't know, you can't explain it, right? So, and I heard some conversations, some concerns about my data should not train the model, right? So my data should not go out. So those are all trust issues. We need to have very strong governance around that. So that's an important aspect which is not debated that much in the industry, but that's something which we as the CFOs and people in the finance fraternity have to be very, very conscious about, right? And of course, nothing comes better by learning yourself and have squads, internal change champions. Those are kind of basic hygienes, right? Coming back to where I started with, this is what we had announced to the streets, right? So we are responsible to the shareholders. $3 billion of annual productivity spend saving for IBM itself. And why are we so confident about it? We have our own tool, which is Watson X. We understand technology, we understand process. So we're just bringing it together. And what you see on the right side are all our use cases, which is unlocking that $3 billion worth of value. So you'll see finance has an opportunity to contribute meaningfully to that conversation. And of course, it's a democratic space for us within IBM to unlock value. Now, that has helped us in further acquisitions. So I think we have done some 14 acquisitions in the last few years and in the strategic areas which we want to grow. So that's what I thought, a very quick run about where we are. I'm happy to take any questions, any observations, but I really wanted to talk about things at scale, not really in the realms of experimentation anymore. That it just bounced off, right? So, thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. And now I would request Ms. Khyati Maheshwari, CFO at Moët Hennessy, to join us on the stage and kindly felicitate.